G'day, and welcome back to Australianguy Films. I'm Pitbull Anat, and here's the first mishap we saw along the highway. The first accident all the way across was just before New York, and it was a truck that lost a bunch of slate. So this is about as close as I got to New York, which, according to Scott with the traffic, is actually a good thing. It is a kind of a shame I didn't get to go see the Big Apple while I was in the area. But I do have other priorities on this trip other than just looking at another big American city for no reason whatsoever. Now, Scott's the guy who bought my RV off me, and when he realized how much trouble it was going to be to get me in Chile from Washington, D.C. through to Boston to catch my flight to the Azores, he decided in all his wisdom and graciousness he was actually going to drive Chile and I up to Boston, which was really nice. So we spent the whole day driving and we arrived just before sunset, and because the airport is a fair way away from the city and Boston's not the easiest place to find a last minute accommodation, Chile and I decided we wanted to stay somewhere nice for the night, so we decided we'd stay in the Hilton Garden Inn down near the Boston Logan Airport, and a beautiful hotel. The staff there were very friendly as usual, and we had a good night's sleep.
Australia's cool.
So the next morning we woke up quite early, and here we are headed off to the airport. One of the priorities for getting the hotel was an airport shuttle bus to save me a few bucks with an Uber or a taxi, and of course Chile had to go in the box. So here's the plane that we're going to be flying to the Azores Islands with. After 4 hours in the box waiting for the flight was actually cancelled. So we had to head out and find ourselves a hotel, and this time the Hilton Garden Inn was full, so we ended up heading off and finding ourselves a night at the Doubletree by Hilton in Chelsea. Now I have to compliment the staff here. They were very helpful. I was in a bit of a shitty mood. The flight was cancelled. Chile had spent half a day in a box for no reason. So it's not that Chile and I like staying in fancy hotels for the sake of it, but the Doubletree did have a courtesy bus that would get us back to the airport in time. And here we are back at the airport for a second round trying to get to the Azores Island after our first flight was cancelled. So here I am on board the Azores Airlines flight, ready to head off to the Azores Islands. Luckily for me,
ground personnel to leave the aircraft, please. Cabin crew lights are in caution.
Lucky for me, I was upgraded to business class, so I have more legroom than I've ever had on an aeroplane before. So after a couple of nights with very little sleep and a late night flight, we didn't take off till almost 1 o'clock. Here we are the next morning, the 15th of July, 2019, flying across the top of the Azores Islands. They're about 1,000 kilometers from the mainland of Portugal, and about 3,150 something miles from the east coast, I guess it is, of the United States. It was a really beautiful flight coming in. The islands are quite spectacular, volcanic islands. You can see one of the craters there, and although you can't see it on the camera, there is actually a village down there inside the lip of the volcano. Unfortunately, this volcano is at the opposite end of the island where I'm staying, and without transport and not going to be here for very long, I don't think I'm going to get a chance to go over and take a closer look at this volcano. This is kind of an accidental trip to the Azores. I had actually tried to book a ticket to Porto in mainland Portugal, but because of a veterinarian strike in Portugal and the fact that Chile only had 10 days to travel once his vet papers were signed, I was kind of forced to head to the Azores. That was the first flight that was available to me. It is an island in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean, 1,000 miles from anywhere, so the water is crystal clear. The people are fantastic. I've only been here a few hours, but I'm very impressed with the people. Everybody seems very friendly and always happy to help. So here we are coming into San Miguel, and we went just a little past the island, and then we had to do a U-turn and come back. And always exciting when the plane turns over on its side. And we're just a couple of minutes from landing at this point. Here we go on our final approach, coming down into the Punta, where even are we? The Punta Delgada airport, and it was a fantastic landing. Big props to the high fly pilots who were, I guess, contracting the flight to Azores Airlines. It was leaving 3 or 4 hours later than it was supposed to, but it did get us there in the morning as opposed to before sunrise. So flying in was quite special because it made it pretty instead of being pitch black like it was supposed to be. Here we are landing, and as usual, I'm more worried about what Chili's doing at this point. It must be quite a bit of a freak show for him down in the cargo. He's too heavy to fly in the cabin with me, so he gets to go in a big box. So here we are, just landed in San Miguel in the Azores at Punta Delgada, and we'll get down off the plane in a few minutes. We'll go and check on Chile, make sure he's okay. That's all I really care about right now. So this has never happened to me before, where I'm first off the aeroplane and, well, first through customs, first into the baggage hold. So any luck, Chile won't be too far behind, and we'll be able to get out and have a look at the beautiful Azores Islands. In the arrivals lounge, after passing through customs and immigration, all Chile wanted to do was go to sleep. So we had a bit of a rest. I had a cup of coffee, let Chile go for a pee and poo, and then we jumped in a taxi, and for our trip across the island took about half an hour. And I have to say, what a beautiful little island it is. Reminds me very much of Mauritius. Very green, tiny little roads, very windy, and water everywhere. The views are just simply spectacular. Now, I met some people on the queue to line up to get onto the plane last night, and we had a bit of a discussion, and it turns out I didn't have anywhere booked because this was kind of a last minute flight for me. And it turns out that they had a bungalow in a beautiful little spot, and attached to the bungalow is 3 little rooms that they rent out occasionally. Now, these guys do live in the States, so this place has been closed up for a while, but they were coming back, and it just took them a couple of hours to straighten up one of the rooms, so Chile and I had somewhere to lay our head for the night. And after moving in here and seeing the village, I have to say I think I'm going to spend at least 3 or 4 days here. I might go and have another look at the island. I'm in no rush whatsoever to be anywhere in particular, and now that I'm here and it's such a pretty little spot, I think I'll stay for a few days and enjoy it. But here we are in the taxi coming down into the village, and as I said earlier, quite spectacular. The Azores Islands has been inhabited by the Portuguese since the mid-1500s. The families here have owned their land and their houses, and they've been passed down from generation to generation to generation. Everybody that I've spoken to from here comes from a family from here, and some of them have been able to trace their family connections back for a couple of 100 years, including the places they live in, which is quite unique in the world, being such a small, tight-knit community. Almost everybody knows everybody, so everybody is polite and nice and friendly and helpful, and so unlike some countries that I've just spent time in, where many things are too much trouble for people to do to help somebody out. But anyway, let's not blag on any other country. Let's just look at the Azores and Portugal. And I've already learned a couple of words in Portuguese. It's very similar to Spanish, and after spending a couple of years in Mexico on my boat with Chile, we didn't exactly learn Spanish, but we did learn to understand some Spanish. My only excuse for that was I was on my boat with my dog, and I wasn't in the community talking to the people every day. Fortunately for me, I have traveled a lot, and I am interested in people and their languages, so I intend to learn 5 words a day. That'll give me 35 words a week. That'll give me maybe 100 words by the time I leave this place if I stay for a few weeks, which is generally enough in any language to be able to be friendly, be polite, welcome people into your little world and be welcomed into theirs. All you need to do is learn how to count to 20, learn to say hello, how are you, what is your name, my name is, and where am I, how do I get to, and please have a fantastic day. So here we are arriving at the bungalows that the lovely couple that I met at the airport offered me to stay. There's Joe walking through the garden. It's a fully walled little estate, so Chili's perfectly safe here. Right now he's running around out there somewhere, and it's quite a nice little room. It's only about 100 yards walk down to the beach here in the village, and as you can see, all the old stone buildings are just quite special. You don't find these in a modern developed country. They would have knocked these down a generation ago and built themselves something out of, I don't know, weatherboard, something far less attractive and beautiful as this. So anyway, after a couple of weeks traveling across the states and then a couple of stressful days getting from Boston, from DC to Boston, and then from Boston with a cancelled flight, and then a late night trying to rebook a flight because Chili had a time limit on when he can arrive. Here we are finally arriving down at the beach in the Azores Islands in Portugal. Now Chili obviously doesn't know where the hell he is. He's not the type of dog who usually hangs his nose out the window of a car. But today on the way from the airport, he was like any other dog, all the crazy new smells. There's lots of flowers in bloom, the grass is very green and lush, and of course the smell of the ocean is always something that gets Chili's hackles up. So here he is going down to the beach to jump his feet into the Atlantic Ocean for the first time. I've only actually seen the Atlantic Ocean 3 or 4 times myself. I've been around the Pacific and the Indian Ocean and the Great Southern Ocean. I've been through the Sea of Cortez and the Black Sea and the Mediterranean Sea, and this is my first real experience on a warm day down in the Atlantic Ocean. Last time I was in the Atlantic Ocean, I was in Amsterdam or Holland, and it was New Year's Eve, and we took a drive up the coast to Friesland, and it was like minus 20 degrees out, and it was a horribly cold day to be going to the beach. But here we are on a beautiful beach in the Azores Islands. It wasn't until I left the beach that I noticed there's a sign saying no dogs, but my host here at the hotel told me it shouldn't be a problem to have Chili on the beach. He's such a calm dog, and as you can see, he never bothers anybody. If anything, he'll go up to somebody who's calling him over and let them give him a pat. Now there's no surf here, but there are waves, and there is a bit of a rip running from the center of the beach, so everybody seems to be staying off to the sides. And as you can see, with the cliffs and the black volcanic sand, a lot of happy, shiny people on holidays having fun, which is the best way to arrive in a new village, in a new country. Head straight down to the beach and wet your feet and get in touch with nature. That's what I like to do. So Chili is happy right now. He's fast asleep in the garden outside here. He's had his dinner, and I'm kind of wrecked myself. It's been an amazingly long couple of days to get here. It was totally worth it. We don't have an onward flight booked, but Ryanair and a few other airlines as well as Azores flies out of Punta Delgado, so it shouldn't be a problem finding an onward flight to anywhere in Europe. We do plan to go on to Portugal in Europe. I spoke with the veterinarian when we arrived here in Punta Delgado, and she's already given us a 4-month extension on Chili's paperwork. So he arrived the last day he was legally allowed to arrive in Europe, in Portugal, and the first thing that happened was the veterinarian stamped his paperwork with a 4-month extension, so Chili is now good to go. And being a dog, he's, well, barely a dog. He's more my best friend than a person, but technically he's a dog. And as you can see, he never leaves me far behind. He's always looking back to check where I am, make sure that I'm following. And there's this neat little cave at the end of the beach, and for some reason it had his interest fully blown. He spent like 20 minutes in this cave poking around and looking around, and he had himself a fine little time. Once he knew I was out here and chilled out, he's like, okay, I'm going back in to explore. He's an amazing dog, and I can't wait to travel to more amazing places. So if you like this video, please, there will be more coming. Hit that subscribe button, like it if you do, share it if you want, and please comment. Make a comment and start a conversation. I will always answer.